Welcome to this week's edition of Your Financial Compass, the show that's dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined by Chris Bulman. He is the founder and financial advisor at Bulman Wealth Group, and Scott Vlahon, financial advisor. Chris, Scott, it's great to be back with you. What is going on in your world this week?
It's busy, kids, family, and clients. Love it.
Yes. And he had bad half and half the other day, and he turned white. So now he's healthy again. So that's probably the best bit of news that we have.
That's a plus. Never good to be drinking or eating spoiled food.
And it happened in a meeting.
Right?
Yeah,
it happened in a client
when you break into a
meeting.
cold sweat after a bad coffee.
Oh, yeah.
That was a first.
Not good. Oh, well,
we checked it, it spoiled, what, like 2 months prior?
Oh, man.
Uh-oh.
Well, we're human.
He's
Things
here.
happen.
He's
but I'm
healthy
glad
again.
you're here.
Yeah,
glad you're feeling better.
Okay.
Always good to be with you. And you've put together another great show for our viewers at home. You know, we've talked on previous shows that one of the biggest fears that folks have is running out of money in retirement. And a recent survey shared that only 40% of Americans are actually confident that they have the income that they're going to need to last them. And so we need to talk about this today. And the reality is that there are some other alternatives out there that folks can use to help supplement and generate income for themselves in retirement. So let's talk about that. So Chris, what is one of the ways that retirees can supplement their income in retirement?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few different ways that we see often, right? One is real estate. Real estate, a lot of people own rental homes. They're able to supplement through that. Another, obviously, Social Security. Social Security was always meant to be a supplement. It was not meant to be your primary source of income, which most of us know. All of our clients know that. Pensions is a big one. We see a lot of clients, baby boomers now retiring with pensions, especially in California. But pensions, they're no longer the norm. There's a statistics. 84% of full-time workers had pensions in 1981. In 2022, only 15% of workers have pensions.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference. So it's shifting drastically. And there's a lot of people, younger people especially, that maybe aren't fully aware of this and don't realize that to get that same level of income that their pensioner parents get, they're going, let's say you have a $100,000 pension, you might need $2 to $3 million in your retirement assets to be able to get that same income and expect it to last forever.
For sure. Well, and to your point, the big shift that happened was the retirement burden was placed on our shoulders. When they went away with pensions, they introduced the 401k, these workplace retirement plans. It really became up to us, the American worker, to fund our own retirement. But it's not the same as a pension. And furthermore, in those tax-deferred accounts, we all have a partner, whether we like it or not. It's Uncle Sam. So whatever money you have saved up, it's not all yours. You don't get to keep all of it. So Scott, since a lot of retirees these days do not have those more traditional pensions, what are some other solutions?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things like Chris said, if we don't have the luxury of having a pension, maybe beyond Social Security, we can take matters in our own hands. And you know what we really wanted to talk about today was kind of annuities 101. And if you've heard of an annuity, one of the ways that it works is you can utilize it to create your own pension. Some people like the idea of just knowing that every month or every year you're going to get a certain amount of money no matter what. But so that is one way we use annuities, and we'll talk more about it throughout the show. But sometimes people think a pension and an annuity are the same thing, and it's not. So like generally a pension is provided through your employer. I have a lot of nurse clients that, you know, under old contracts they get a pension. Now the newer ones unfortunately don't get them. But an annuity pension is when you're choosing to work with an annuity company, which is an insurance company, and you're utilizing them, maybe taking a portion of your money that you have saved, and you can turn that into a pension. And it's not a fit in every instance, but there are some people that just like that peace of mind, kind of that idea of, as we said earlier, just that stream of income. So that is one of the ways that we utilize them, and it can be a fit for some of your money.
We know all of us at this table have experienced that situation where someone hears the word annuity and they freak out and say, I don't want to know, I don't want to do anything with that, right? Because they do often get a really bad rap. And so we need to talk about that because not all annuities are created equal. There's different types, there's different purposes. So let's talk a little bit about that, Chris. How do you define when people are wondering, okay, is an annuity right for me? How do you help them understand the concept and what it actually is?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to understand annuities aren't right for a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, really not right. And you have to, but they're really right for other people.
Yeah.
And annuities are, like automobiles. any different number of automobiles. And depending if you're trying to drive fast and drive on a racetrack or drive slow or not wreck on your way to Tahoe on the 50, or you want to drive fast on the 80, or you have a family of 6 and you need a Suburban, or you have a family of 2 and you've got a convertible. Different cars for different people, different goals.
Yep.
Annuities are the same thing. And if you want an annuity built for, I won't call it speed, but for growth, if you want an annuity built for that with no fees, there is an annuity out there for you. Maybe an annuity that the only goal is to grow, beat inflation, and not lose money, and maybe have no fees. There you go. There's one automobile for you. If you want something that you're not so concerned about growth, that's not your worry, that's not your objective, that's not what your goal is, but what you want is to have something that's going to give you an income stream for the rest of your life that you can never outlive, then there's an annuity for you. But there's so many different ones, so many different companies, so much can get lost in translation. There are variable annuities. That's kind of the bad word in what we do.
Right, that's kind of the one that's given all the rest of them a bad name, right?
Yeah.
I really think so, and because those expenses on a lot of variable annuities can be as high as 3, 4, 5%. So on the years when the market's going up and you're making money, you get docked 5% for the fees, and when the market's down 20% in a variable annuity, it's invested in mutual funds. If it's down 20 and you have 5% fees, now you're down 25.
Right.
So variable annuities are something that we steer away from, and we certainly suggest if you own one, you're going to want to have that reviewed.
And Chris kind of beat me to it as we come across a lot of folks that have questions about annuities, and there's probably a lot of people listening right now that have an annuity. Maybe you got one a few years ago. You don't remember what it was. You don't remember if it's a variable. You don't remember if it's any number of different annuities. That's one of the things that we can do is sit down and review it, and
actually review the annuity contract.
Review the annuity contract,
right.
because most people that we've come across, they get one and they forget what it is a week later, and that's not a dig on them. That's this is what we do for a living. We should know it. But there's so many intricacies to it. Like Chris said, what if you have a variable annuity? I'm sure some of you listening and watching do. Do you know the fees? We can run a review to see the fees. Do you know, is yours set up for a pension? Is yours set up for growth? Because there's big differentiators, and it's understanding that. And Chris was talking about automobiles. I always think of TVs. They're always changing and advancing.
Yes.
And annuities kind of do the same thing.
They've evolved a lot.
They've evolved, and sometimes dependent on the market climate, can dictate how good annuity rates may or may not be. So if you do have an annuity, I would say, call the number below. You can schedule a time. We'll do an annuity review, see exactly what it is you have. Maybe you're interested in an annuity and you want to find out more, or you've only heard bad things, so you want to hear more about that, but also the good things. Schedule time. We'll have that discussion, and we'll also go through the kind of the early stages of our complimentary financial compass review, and that's part of it, which is also part of a risk analysis, income planning report. But like we said, today is about annuities. We want to talk the good and bad, and that's one of the things we can talk about in that introductory meeting with us.
Absolutely. Scott, Chris, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to get your own complimentary financial compass review is there on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone, and you can actually scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member from Bulman Wealth Group will reach out to you to schedule your complimentary meeting and complimentary financial compass review that way as well. When we come back, we're going to be diving into the pros and cons of annuities. More after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back. You're watching Your Financial Compass, brought to you by the team at Bulman Wealth Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined in the studio by Chris Bulman and Scott Vlahon. We are talking today all about annuities. And don't change that channel. Sometimes people hear that word and they want to run from it, but today we're really pulling back the curtain. We're going to be talking now about the pros and cons, because as you all established in the first segment, not all annuities are created equal. They've changed a lot. It could be beneficial for someone. It could be one of the tools to use in a financial plan, or for a lot of people, it's not the right situation. So we got to look at both sides of this coin. So Chris, let me start by asking you, what are some of the pros of annuities today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, if anyone ever is approaching you and saying all of your money has to be in annuities or life insurance or the
anything.
stock market or
anything,
you should probably run, because there's merit to almost every type of investment. But you should also always know the bad, the downfall, the side effects. And we're going to share that today. But some of the positives of an annuity are, when we think of the stock market and how it works, if we're invested all in growth stocks or the S&P 500, we get all the ups when the market goes up, right? But what happens when it goes down? We get all those downs.
Right.
And so the benefit of maybe a diversified portfolio is we get some of the ups, but we get some of the downs. The benefit of some fixed annuities are you get some of the ups and none of the downs. And so that's a benefit for people that sort of want to have one toe dipped in the water and one toe out. An annuity is a great way to go, a fixed annuity, because you can get those gains when the markets are up and you don't participate when it's down.
And you're protecting that principal.
And you're protecting. If you have, you're sitting on, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in a savings account, or millions of dollars, and you're worried about taxes. Annuities are a great place to put money to get tax-deferred growth. Now, the upside is tax-deferred growth. Scott will touch on the downside, but the downside is, at inheritance, that growth is taxed. There's no step up in cost basis. So, just some of the benefits is, everyone is different, I will tell you. Some people come into us and they say, I don't want any risk, I just want growth with no risk. An annuity may be just right for that person. At the same time, if you want growth and you are okay with risk, then it may be a bad thing for you.
Right, absolutely. Well, what's interesting is the annuity sales have skyrocketed in 2023, and a lot of that's because of what people experienced in 2022. People thought they might have been invested more conservatively, but we saw stocks and bonds both going down simultaneously. That was a rude wake-up call, and that's what's really fueling now this skyrocketed, annuity sales. So
one more good thing about annuities I will tell you is whenever the market's up, everyone's happy.
Yes.
When the markets are down, people that own fixed annuities or annuity, any non-variable annuity generally, are not upset because they haven't lost any money.
Yes.
And those are the people that usually come back in and say, I want another annuity. I want to put more money into an annuity. And sometimes it's right for those people that really don't want that risk. And, a lot of people don't understand how they work. So it's important to understand how they work because, again, just like owning a stock, owning an annuity has its upsides and its drawbacks.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what we want to do on the show, right? Is really present that balanced view. So we've talked about some of the pros. Scott, let's talk about some of the cons.
I've been licking my chops about the cons. So, Kristen, I'm glad you said this earlier. It's a tool. An annuity is a tool.
Yes.
And it might be right for some people. It might not be right for other folks. But since I get to talk about the cons, one of them is high fees. With variable annuities. Those are the ones that generally have the high fees. And a lot of folks don't know in the fine print, like, gosh, I'm paying 4% a year for this and I have the chance to lose money. So there can be high fees. Generally the ones Chris and I use when appropriate don't have fees. Another one is they're so complicated, or they can be complicated. And that's all types of annuities, especially we're just kicking the dead horse of the variable annuity, but I saw a prospectus once, which is like the guidebook for variable annuity. It was over 250 pages, which is not scintillating bedtime reading.
Yes.
So it just
Great for bedtime reading.
Right.
Puts you right to sleep.
if you have insomnia, it
touche.
might be a great
Chris,
thing.
he reads those all the time. Another is there's a timeline attached to them. So you have to go into understanding, hey, if I'm going to put some money into an annuity, there are 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Generally, from what we've seen, 10 years might have a better growth potential, but you have to understand you're giving up some of the liquidity of money you put in there. This is not the money, like say someone we talk to them, like, oh, I love this, I want to put all my money there. Time out, no, as Chris said, but life is going to happen, you're going to need more liquidity, so we don't want to put too much money into an annuities. We meet with a lot of folks that have worked with advisors that want to just jam everyone's money into an annuity.
Right.
And then they come see us like, what do I do? It's all in here. So, putting too much into one, not understanding the timeline could be detrimental. Another is there are different types of annuities depending on what you're trying to achieve.
Yes.
We talked earlier about the income annuities. Chris talked a second ago about ones that have safer growth. Generally, you don't combine the two because they're built for one or the other. You're not going to.
They're different tools to do a different job.
That's right.
Yes.
In football, we love football. They always said if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So if you have an annuity that tries to be growth and income, guess what? There's going to be. It might not be good at either one.
Yes.
So it's understanding, what am I trying to achieve from this annuity? If I want a pension, then I go that route. If I just want safe growth, guess what? You don't use that one that's built for a pension. So it's understanding the, just the different intricacies of them. And we cannot stress enough. We chuckle about, what have you heard about annuities? They can be a good tool. People that say avoid them like the plague, run. People that say put all your money into them, run. Is it appropriate for you? Maybe it is, and we can find that out as we get to know you and your situation.
For sure. And just, that old adage, right? You don't want to put anytime all of your eggs in one basket. That's what we're talking about here. You want to make sure you're using the right tools to accomplish your goals, your objectives, which is individual and unique to you. I'm curious, how important is it to know what kind of company you're working with an annuity? Because a lot of companies out there sell them. So what is your advice and recommendation typically about which companies to look at, and what kind of things you take into consideration when choosing what kind of annuity to go with?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is there's no company that we're loyal to. We're loyal to our clients.
Yes.
And so our clients are always going to get the best companies that are offering the best rates and that have the best rating, at that time.
Right.
And another thing I would say beyond just that is if you own an annuity now, this is similar to, you think of the last 10 years as interest rates kept dropping, what did everyone do with their homes? They kept refinancing them and getting, maybe you had a 6% rate, then you had a 5, then you had a 3, and now rates have gone up.
Right.
Well, we're at that inverse relationship with respect to annuities. A lot of annuity rates are based on the interest rate environment. So you can get better rates now in annuities, a lot of annuities, than you could even just a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So if you own an annuity out there right now, this is a great time to look at your annuity, give us a call, and think about refinancing your annuity. This is a great time to look at what you have and see if there's something better out there. If you have a 60-inch TV and it's blurry, and they offer a 70-inch HD, and it's
crystal
super
clear. Right?
Yes, you may want to upgrade your TV. The same thing with annuities right now.
Absolutely. That's a really good point for sure. Well, for folks who do already have an annuity contract, what is that process like? I know years ago my husband had one from an old workplace retirement plan, and we actually met with our financial advisor at the time, and he picked up the phone and called the annuity company with both of us sitting there to have those conversations, to ask the questions that at the time we didn't know to ask. So what's that process like?
Yeah, so good cop, bad cop. I'm the good cop, and Chris is a bad cop. He calls them and yells at them, like, how could you do this at the company? But all jokes aside, we've done that several times in meetings where we'll sit down and call the company, or we'll sit, because we have experience with dozens of companies, so you get to know them and kind of, as Chris just referenced, and I can't put it any more eloquently, it's probably worth your time if you have an annuity, say it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years old. Let's review it. Is it doing what it's supposed to? Sometimes the rates on the old ones change. Maybe it's time to refinance the annuity if it makes sense. And that's, again, where you can call, schedule a time, we can have that discussion and see if it makes sense to review your annuity. Maybe there's the new model that is a better fit, and we can find that out if you schedule a time, and we can have that complimentary consultation.
Really good points. Refinancing that annuity. I love that phrase for sure. Well, Scott, Chris, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to get your complimentary financial compass review, 888-970-4685, or you're welcome to scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and a member of the team will reach out to you to schedule your complimentary review that way as well. More on today's show right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back. You're watching Your Financial Compass, brought to you by the team of Bulman Wealth Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. I'm here with Chris and Scott, financial advisors, and we have had a lively discussion today about all things annuities. And really, at the end of the day, this show is about you, the viewer. And we want to end today's show by posing the question. You might be sitting there wondering and thinking, is an annuity right for me? And so, Chris, let's talk about that. What are some of the other things that folks need to take into consideration to find out if this is, in fact, a good tool for them to implement to help generate income for themselves in retirement?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question. There's a lot that goes into that. In general, one of the things I do a lot in meetings is I'll explain, maybe a safer investment that can't lose money in the market, and when the market goes up, you'll be able to make money, and then you have your money in the market, which is going to make money when the market goes up, but it's going to give it back when the market goes down. And think of it like a pendulum, like a grandfather clock, and which way do you kind of swing? More risk or more safety? And just by giving that example, some people are like, oh, I'm 50-50. Other people are 75-25. Other people are, I don't want anything that's safe. I have my money in a savings account, that's safe. Everything else I want in the market.
Right.
But just by giving little different ways to think about things, it really helps people to make a decision on, well, I want to go 50, I want 50% of my money safe, and then we can identify what are we going to use for that safe money, whether it's annuities or CDs or money market funds or whatever we're going to use that's not going to lose money.
How do you all typically put an annuity to use for your clients? Like, who is the ideal candidate, or what kind of situations is it most suitable for someone to go down that route?
Yeah, again, like Chris said, that's a loaded question because there's so many intricacies. But generally, a lot of the folks that we work with are 60 on up, and they're nearing retirement. Maybe they're in retirement, or right at the retirement red zone, as we call it, and maybe their risk tolerance has changed, and they're not wanting to take as much risk as they had 10, 15, 20 years prior. And as we said, we sit down to find these things out. And ultimately, what is the goal? What kind of rate of return do we need to get? For, say, as we're putting a plan together, if we need a 4% return for the plan to work, well, maybe that is more conducive to having some of the money in an annuity, because generally it's not going to return as much over time.
Right.
Or, as we said, in the first segment today, maybe you want to create your own pension, and you didn't have one through your work, or maybe you're concerned Social Security might change in the future, and you want to create your own. Maybe an annuity fits in that pocket. But that's what, having a conversation with us to find out, and we walk through these pros and cons, as Chris said earlier. They all have pros and cons, and sometimes as complicated as annuities can be, sometimes you need to peel back the layer and say, at the end of the day, this is what it does, this is what it does not do, this is another good thing it does, and here's another bad thing it does.
Right.
How does this fit for you? And maybe it's a fit, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that, especially these last few years with, probably go back several years, but with COVID, and I can tell you almost everyone that comes to see us over maybe the past 6 months or a year, the conversation is, I don't have as much faith in the U.S. government. What Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. I don't have faith because the other side's horrible.
Right.
You choose which side you're on. And again, Ukraine and Russia and China, North Korea, Taiwan, there's always something going on, and people are worried that the big looming potential recession coming, people are worried that they're going to lose a lot of money, and they want to find a safer place. So that's when an annuity can, again, not a variable annuity, but an annuity that cannot go down becomes an option that people are much more interested in.
It makes a lot of sense.
And I have a story of a client I work with. Several years ago, we began working together, probably about 4 years ago. And at the time, we were placing their investments in different areas, and we had put a portion of it into an annuity. And they liked the idea. They liked the idea of having some of it safe when the market's down.
Right.
Fast forward a year, market was doing well, and their investments with us were making a lot of money. And the annuity is like, oh gosh, that's boring. I know, Scott, you said it's great, but it's kind of boring compared when the rest of our money is
Right, it
making so much
seems so
money.
exciting elsewhere,
Yeah,
right?
and I said, hey guys, I hear you, and that makes sense. I promise there will be a time where that's not the case. We look at last year,
Right.
Middle of 22, we're having a review, and their money in the market was down a bit,
Right.
and their money in the annuity hadn't dropped a dime. I said, hey, this is one of those times where an annuity plays a good
Yes.
role. So it's understanding generally, like with a sports team, starting five of the, of your basketball team, most guys aren't going to be at their optimum in any given day, and sometimes the annuity is going to be playing the star role, and sometimes it's riding the bench.
Right.
But understanding when it fits into that role.
For sure. And that just speaks to the fact that it's part of having an overall comprehensive, holistic financial plan. We always say this on the show, how you make a decision in one area of your financial life can and will affect all the others. And so this is why you have to look at all the tools that are available. And you all being independent, the world is your oyster. You have an unlimited number of options that you can really pick the right tools to do the right job for each individual client you work with.
Absolutely, and we love doing it. We love being able to, we always say we don't want to be just a person that only offers stock market investments. We don't want to be just the insurance guy that pushes all of your money into permanent life insurance. And we don't want to be the annuity person that's the sky's falling, the world's going to end, and
Right.
you got to buy an annuity. By giving you the parameters, the good and the bad and the ugly about every style of investment allows you to make the choice on what fits best in your portfolio.
Absolutely. Well, I know what you excel at doing is doing life with your clients too, sharing the good and bad and ugly of people's lives, and again, helping them navigate all these challenges that we all face.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't say it any better than that. If any of what we talked about tonight resonated with you, you're interested in annuities, the good and bad. Maybe you have an annuity, you want to review it, or maybe you just want to ask Chris about his fashion selections. We can have that conversation, schedule a time. We'll have our complimentary financial compass review and see if there's any value we can offer.
Wonderful. Scott, Chris, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call, 888-970-4685. We appreciate you watching. We look forward to being back with you next time.